Hi there and welcome back. In this short lecture, we're going to learn about Microsoft Azure Web Application Firewall. In short, we also call it as WAF. Basically, WAF will provide you a centralized protection for all of your web applications from the common exploits and vulnerabilities. And you can deploy this WAF basically on three different things. Either you can go for WAF can be configured for your application gateways, and also for the Azure Front Door and Microsoft CDN network. That's nothing but content delivery network. And you would get the normal benefits like cross-site scripting, Java tags. So it's going to protect you all of these kind of attacks like PHP injection or remote command execution, remote file inclusion, session fixation, SQL injection, or protocol attackers. All these are built-in protection. You can get it for your application gateway or for your front door or maybe for CDN networks. So what we will do is we will go through each of these features with respect to WAF, how we can configure on Azure Application Gateway and front door, and also for the CDNs, and then the how it's gonna protect. All that we would be learning within this lecture and followed by a demo. When we try to configure web application firewalls for Azure Application Gateways, it basically works on core rules of 3.1 or 3.0 or 2.29 from the Open Web Application Security Project. So this is actually managed by like F5 and Cisco and other third-party community, which focuses on all the web application security, and they also comes into the security vulnerability finding and securing. This is an open project, so it basically either you can choose a core rule set or maybe you can use vote WASP or any of the configuration. You can choose it when you're trying to configure an application gateway. And you can see here if somebody is trying to do the SQL injection, WAF can protect only, and it can only allow the valid request, and it will redirect to your backend web applications. So the advantages side, when we look at web application side for the protection, you get the complete protection for your web apps, for vulnerabilities and attacks without modification. Any kind of backend code can be integrated, and also you can create your custom web policies for attaching, and you can also go for the monitoring. When we say monitoring, you can actually integrate with log analytics or event hubs or maybe storage. You can actually log to the storage account. Coming back to the features, we talked about the SQL injection or cross-site scripting, protection against other common web attacks such as the command injection, HTTP request, smuggling, HTTP request splitting, remote file inclusion, protection against HTTP protocol violation. You also get the complete detection for the common application misconfiguration for your Apache or maybe IIS configuration, and also exclusion list lets you omit certain request attributes for WAF evaluations. A common example would be the Active Directory inserted tokens that are used for authentication of the password fields would be automatically excluded. So geo filtering traffic can be allow or block certain countries. All that kind of configuration also can be configured on top of your WAF. With respect to the demo for application gateways, I have already created application gateway, and I'll simply navigate to web application firewall. If at all you have not yet have configured your application gateways, you can check out a lecture on specific to the application gateways, and you can go through that, how to configure that. And this is a specific lecture on specific to web application firewall, so WAF. So with respect to the application gateway, you can actually come back here and configure the ties with WAF, and you can enable the required configurations. And also, if you look at the rules, as we talked within the lecture about the two different methods of rules, what we have here, one would be the cross, that's a CRS, that's a core rule set, as well as the Open Web Application Security Gateway. Any of these two rules or two sources can be used. So if you look at here, you have the option for OWASP, or maybe here you can use your Microsoft Bot Manager rules it also, which is again a newly added as the feature where it's gonna prevent any of the bot specific configurations also, which is quite new here. And you can choose any of them. So in our case, if we are choosing here maybe a 3.1 WAF, so this is completely based on the open source, and you can configure here the rules. So this is where actually all the rules will come into the picture, like as we talked about earlier. About if I just scroll a little bit side, you can, when I expand it here, you can see here SQL injection and the protocol detection or protocol enforcement, protocol attack, all different kind of methods that can be automatically configured here, and which would protect your web applications. So this is the one of the advantages that you have with the built-in rules. And if at all you want to customize, you can do the customization also. Coming back to the firewall mode, you can actually put it in the status as detection or prevention. So when you are actually detecting, you can just detect and you are actually logging, but prevention is the actual uh, enabling the status of your web application firewall, so that it's going to completely prevent all the actions that are coming up. And that's it. That's about the application gateway specific to the web application firewall. Let's go to WAF on Azure Front Door. So when it comes back to the front door, by using the WAF, when you enable on a front door, you are going to secure your web applications against of the common exploits and vulnerabilities. It also keeps your services highly available for your end users and helps you meet compliance requirements. So WAF on a front door is a global and centralized solution, and it's going to deploy at the Azure network edge locations also around the globe, so that before it actually enters the threads into your network, it's going to prevent. And the WAF enabled web application inspects every incoming request delivery to your front door at the network edge location. That's what here the key here. So it doesn't actually, it comes into your network at the edge location itself. You're gonna block it, all those common problems. So when I say common problems, it's going to prevent the malicious attacks close to the attack source before they actually enter into your virtual network. So you get the world-class protection for your web applications, especially from the common exploits and the vulnerabilities. You also get the global protection at the scale without sacrificing the performance. And again, when we try to configure here as your front door with respect to web application firewalls, you have the custom rules and you also have the managed rules. So when we see managed rules, like we have seen the common rules like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, protection or protection against your other common web attacks, all that are built in. And if at all you want to customly create your own rules, you can also do that with the custom rules. And again, with the front door also, you can enable detection mode or prevention mode, and you can monitor uh, accordingly that. So let's jump into the quick demo to understand how to configure on a front door. We have created front door as part of front door demo. I'm just using the same thing here. And all I have to do is I'll just have to go to the web application firewall and check the configuration that was associated here. So if you look at the WAF, the core thing that Microsoft trying to do is to centralize everything so that they can actually do the configuration centrally for application gateways, front door, and CDN networks. So they are trying to do their best to make from this centralized place. So that's where web application comes into the web application firewall comes into the picture. So you need to actually create a WAF, that's web application firewall, within the Microsoft Azure portal, and then you need to associate this. So I'm going to search for the WAF in the marketplace, and I'm able to see the web application firewall. So if you see here, there's nothing has been created. So click on add or create web application firewall or WAF. So that's going to actually take to a new wizard where I need to choose my resource group, and choose a policy for. The policy is this time, if you see here, the policy we talked about in the introduction lecture. When you try to create even the WAF, it's going to ask you, hey, you want to configure for application gateway or front door or CDN. So in our case, we are going to choose, actually this is for the front door, so I'll just choose a front door. And within my subscription, my resource group, I'm going to give here a policy name. So this is just for front door demo or WAF policy example. I'll just remove the hyphen and policy states, so you're going to enable or you're going to disable. So you can configure later point if you want to enable the state. So I'm just going to enable, and coming back to the polling settings, I can use the detection of my URL and the response status code 4003, block response body, all that, prevention mode or detection mode. So I can configure here. Then you can also choose the managed roles. This is where the managed role set has been already predefined for you. You can configure the default roles, or you can even if you have a solution which is coming actually for your bot specific and you're trying to bot manager rule set, you can create that, or you can bot production specific, you can create, or you can actually use any of the default rule which is in a preview state. Also you can choose any of them based on your requirement basically. So what kind of protection you are looking, let's say you want some other rules that to be not to be blocked, or in that situation you can actually unblock them, or you can enable or disable that specific configuration. But it's recommended that you actually choose the default set which will protect a lot of other configuration, let's say SQL injection or session fixation attacks. All that are covered under default rule. If you want to, you can configure even custom rules which is in the next visit. So this is where the custom rules comes and it plays a key role. Let's say I want a specific country, specific geo or IP base to be blocked. Let's say North Korea specific request, whatever it is coming to your applications, you want to block it. So you can simply do that actually by configuring here. If this is the operation is a specific country, Afghanistan or maybe Costa Rica or whatever you want to allow, or you want to disallow, you can do all that conditions by configuring here, then deny or allow, or you can log it, or you can redirect by saying that, hey, this website or this web application is not meant for your region. You want to do that, you can do that with the redirection. You have all that flexibility to configure WAF policies from the custom rules. And coming back to the associations, you can actually associate with any of the front door host. Let's say in my case, I have already created a front door application, so you can actually choose that and you can associate that. So what would happen is, if I just go back to the front door, this specific policy, whatever we have created, will be available there. So then you can review it and create it. So it's going to actually create that specific policy. So validation is success, then it's going to create that policy. WAP has been created. Let's go to the resource and have a look on it. So you have the activity log, and you also have the and tags, that all the common, and the policy settings. You can configure and manage rules. You can actually enable a specific thing, or you want to disable that specific rule. You can do that here, like disable, enable, or you can configure your specific configuration from the custom rules and assign them for your associated front-end host. In our case, we have associated with the front door specific, and you can go back and check that. So if I just open my front door here, if I just do a quick refresh here, I should be able to see here that FD demo WAF policy, and this policy contains, again, it's just taking back to that specific firewall policy here, and you see here the same thing which is opening up here, and you can do all the required customizations, custom rules, like we talked about the geographic match, then allow or deny. You can do the condition. It's very simple workflow that you can define with custom rules. So that's all about the front door specific configuration for WAF. Let's jump into Azure demo, which is a CDN specific. When it comes to the CDN network, you can also configure WAF on top of CDN networks to protect your web applications. Let's say this is the incoming request which is coming, and then it actually goes to your network edge locations, right? That's where the CDN we talk, and that's where you can actually configure your WAF with the CDN, and then you can go for your rules that are configured as a custom rules or the default rules. And you can also set your firewall into the detection mode or prevention mode, and you can also take the action like allow, block, or log, or redirect. These are the same things which we have capability to do it for other two um, configurations for the front door as well as the application gateway. And now let's jump into the quick demo to understand about this, how we can configure for the CDN network delivery for Azure Web Application Firewalls. This is a CDN which I have already created earlier for a different demo purpose. And if you just go back to the CDN profiles, there's nothing here to configure the WAF. So very similar what we have done for the front door, we need to actually create a WAF. And during the WAF creation, actually, we need to choose what is the purpose of the WAF which we are creating. Let's see, this policy is for CDN. This way we have to choose as a CDN for Microsoft Azure instead of the earlier we did actually configure for the front door. Now it's time for us to configure for CDN specific, and then choose your resource group and give a policy name. So in my case, I'm going to give this as the CDN policy, and simply click on policy settings. And again, we know that when we try to configure front door, we did actually configure here the mode where we can choose the prevention or detection mode. So in our case, we actually configure again prevention here in this case also. And coming back to the rules, as we talked earlier also, you have multiple rules, but in our case we have only here for the CDN specific default rule set is only available, so you can choose that. And just go to the custom rules if you are trying to configure any of the custom policies to match those specific criteria, and then you can take an action according to that. So in our case, let's say custom rule match. So I'm gonna choose if any of the geolocation or IP address in that situation the operation is or is not, and then if the country is this, then you want to allow or deny action can be taken. This is a simple workflow. And also you can configure other custom rule for matching of the custom rule for the rate limits. You can configure here a simple custom rate limit, like very similar to the configuration of the workflow, but this is purely works on the threshold of the maximum number of requests that are going to be allowed for a limited duration for a specific web application which is going to retrieve, or if it is actually coming from so and so specific geographical location or IP or size or string, all that can be configured. Header request information based on that you can actually, whether you want to allow or deny, can be configured. So this is again one more custom rule up on top of your existing rules. So custom rules comes into the play after your custom rule matches only. This would actually apply. And coming back to the association, you can actually associate with your CDN network. So in our case, we have already created one CDN, so I should be able to retrieve that CDN network. So that's a CDN profile which we created, and we can associate with that. So this is where you are actually associating. And then tags. So tags are very important for the billing purpose. You can add them and review it and create. Policy is created, we can simply go back to the resource, and here you can change the policy settings from prevention to detection the way you want it, and then the rules, the manage default rules. If you want to enable, disable, the action can be taken from here, which would associated from the CDN policy. And this is with the CDN endpoint, which you can configure. If you have multiple CDNs, you can even do configure here. And you can also create the custom rules based on the custom rule match and custom rule limit based on the limit of the thresholds. All that can be configured here. So altogether, this is very similar configuration of what we have done for the front door with respect to the WAF. Similar configuration, similar policies that can be applied here. So that's about the WAF specific. Let's have a small comparison between application gateway and the front door with respect to the WAF configuration. There's a lot of things that we are trying to do in a common when compared with the WAF policies on application gateway or front door, and these are quite similar. And firstly, when we are talking about the protecting the solutions on application gateway or the front end door, we are actually talking about the network specific within different regions. So remember that the application gateway itself is protected in terms of region specific. So it's like a single region for high availability, which we talk about the application gateway. So the solution again WAF comes for the regions level, but when it actually comes for the front door, it's a global, because the front door is a global. It uses Microsoft Global Network, global CDNs, all that. So it's a global solution here. And in addition to that, in the application gateway, we actually protected the network, virtual network layer, but here it's going to be the before the traffic actually hits to the CDNs, it's going to protect the front door. And for the common comparison, you can actually get on the both the services, you get the Microsoft Azure managed rules, and your own custom managed rules can be configured in the application gateway specific or front door WAF specific. And also on top of it, it's going to work on a OWASP core rule set, all that protocols which are open source, open community, like managed by FI and Cisco, and a lot of different network security options provided by the support for the open web application security projects. So this is basically a non-profit foundation that looks for the security against the common threats, vulnerabilities with respect to the WAF. WAF configuration policies can be taken from this OWASP specific foundation or rule sets. So that's all about the web application firewalls in Azure. I hope you really enjoy this lecture with demos. Thank you for watching this. Take your time to review the course and the feedback by writing a simple review. Thank you.